The air is a weapon, not just cold, but a crystalline, paralyzing silence that precedes a killing storm. A 15-year-old boy, Finn Holloway, moves through the dense pine forest. He is a ghost in layers of scavenged wool and leather, all sinew and pragmatic motion. His face is carved by the wind. His eyes, slate gray and eternally vigilant, scan the darkness. He carries a small sack of frozen rabbit and a worn axe. Finn is moving his traps higher, desperate to beat the coming blizzard. The wind, which had been silent, begins to moan low through the high pines. He stops dead, not for the wind, for a sound that should not exist here, a sound of raw, animal pain. Human. He turns off the trail, plunging into snowdrifts that swallow his knees. Every step is a deliberate burning expense of energy. He finds her huddled at the base of a massive black pine. Iyana, early 20s, an Apache woman. Her buckskin dress is soaked, her face a mask of sweat and ice. She is in the throes of labor. Finn's first instinct, honed by 8 years as a stray in the brutal town of Ember Ridge, is to vanish. Survival demands invisibility. Iyana, sharp, strained Apache. Dia! Gehizo! She grabs the hunting knife at her belt. Her eyes, fierce, dark, and utterly desperate, lock onto him. Finn, calm, low. I'm not a soldier, not a miner, just stray. He holds his empty, gloved hands out. You're freezing. The storm is here. A massive contraction hits Iyana. She doubles over, a gasp ripping free. The knife falls inches from her hand. Her breath plumes white and shallow. She is fading. Finn sees the blue tint on her lips. Hypothermia. The baby is coming. The nearest settlement is 8 miles of certain death. He drops his axe. Survival is screaming at him to leave, but the memory of his own dying mother, her thin hands, her final uncomprehended words, silences the scream. Finn, pointing uphill urgently. Shelter. We move. Now. He points to the sky, then to her, then makes the universal sign of cradling a baby. She nods, a barely perceptible flicker of acceptance. Finn wraps her in his own worn, thick coat and hoists her onto his back. She is light with exhaustion and cold, but the effort of breaking trail while carrying a burden is staggering. The blizzard hits, a sudden blinding curtain of white. The temperature drops another 10 degrees. The wind howls now, no longer moaning, but devouring the sound. They reach a small, natural cave/overhang in a rock face. Finn gently slides Iyana inside, onto a bed of pine boughs he scrapes together in seconds. Iyana, whispering in Apache, but his name is clear. Finn. She knows him, or perhaps she heard the trappers speak the name. The cave is small. Finn races outside to drag in deadfall. He needs heat. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl cuts through the wind. Finn freezes. He knows that sound. Wolves. They smell the blood of labor, the weakness of the dying. He glances back at Iyana, her eyes wide, terrified. Finn, through gritted teeth, stay still. He grabs his small axe. The entrance to the cave is a narrow aperture. Finn stands guard, a thin shadow boy facing down the wilderness. 3 wolves, gaunt and massive, emerge from the whiteout. Their eyes glow yellow-green in the dim light. Finn manages to fight them off with the axe and a terrifying, desperate noise of his own, scaring them into the storm. He's bleeding from a shallow bite on his arm, but he is alive. He stumbles back into the cave, panting. The first thing he does is strike a flint. Within minutes, a small, courageous fire blossoms in the cave. The warmth is immediate, life-affirming. Iyana is past screaming. She is bearing down, her entire body rigid with effort. Iyana, in halting English, a plea. Water! Hot! Finn melts snow in a salvaged tin cup near the fire. He is now the midwife, the doctor, the protector, using the same pragmatic, focused skill he uses to skin a fox. He works through the birth. Hours pass, marked only by the growing fire and Iyana's desperate breaths. Finally, a thin, fierce cry fills the cave. A baby, a boy, is born. Finn, exhausted and shaky, cleans the child, wraps him in a piece of his own coat lining, and places him on Iyana's chest. Iyana looks at Finn. The ferocity is gone, replaced by a deep, ancient gratitude. Iyana, softly, in English. Dakota, he is the chief. My husband. You have saved the bridge. The weight of her words hits Finn harder than any wolf bite. He didn't just save a woman. He saved the wife of Chief Dakota, one of the most powerful and feared Apache leaders. He has, unknowingly, stepped into the very center of the war he has always avoided. He looks from the fragile baby to the raging blizzard outside. He has bridged the gap, but now he is trapped on the edge of two worlds, waiting for the morning and the inevitable reckoning.
The blizzard lasted through the night, but by dawn, the world outside the cave entrance is silent, covered in a blinding, fresh layer of snow. The fire has burned down to embers, leaving the air inside frigid yet survivable. Finn sits motionless, guarding the mouth of the cave. He hasn't slept. His gaze is fixed on Iyana and the child. Iyana's earlier exhaustion is replaced by a primal alertness. She is feeding the baby. The sight is simultaneously fragile and impossibly strong. She meets Finn's eye. The shared experience of fighting off the cold and delivering life has burned away the initial fear and defiance. Iyana, you saved him. You saved my son. Finn, looking past her into the dim shadows. I saved a woman and a baby. It doesn't matter who you are. Iyana, with a small, knowing smile, touches her lips. It matters now. My husband, Dakota, is a chief of D&D. He does not forget a debt. He is near, hunting. This confirms Finn's worst fear and greatest hope. The man whose wife he saved is a legend, a leader whose people are currently at war with Finn's world. Finn, quietly, bitterly. Your people and my people don't trade debts. They trade bullets. They trade life, too. You have given life. That is more than any treaty. But the danger is not only out there. She nods towards his leg. He glances down. The wolf bite, stiffened by the cold, is swollen and ragged. Iyana. Infection. The cold kills the weak things, but the poison is patient. You must move. You must heat. She reaches out slowly, her hand passing over the baby's head. Finn watches wary, but doesn't pull away. She gently places a small, intricately beaded pouch in his hand. For the fever. A gift, not payment. Finn looks at the pouch, then back at the fierce, exhausted woman. He recognizes this moment, the absolute, total trust forged in a life-or-death crisis. This connection is now stronger than any racial boundary established by the settlers of Ember Ridge. Finn, clutching the pouch. We have to move before the cold kills the fire. The storm broke. We go now.
Finn helps Iyana up. She leans heavily on him. He wraps the baby securely inside the buffalo cloak. They move painfully slow, following the high ground above the frozen Clark Fork River, the unofficial, blood-soaked border between the Apache lands and the territory. Finn knows every fold of this land, every hidden stream, every rock. His trapper's skills, learned in isolation, are now dedicated entirely to her survival. Mid-morning, they reach a sheltered, steep-sided gulch. Iyana stops, pointing to a fresh, massive footprint in the snow. Dakota. He moves like the wind. He will be looking for me. The track is undeniable, the moccasin print of a large man, deep and purposeful. It leads directly down the gulch toward the river. Finn, eyes scanning the tree line. We follow. He'll find you near the water. They descend. The silence is too perfect, too absolute. Finn's instincts are screaming. He pushes Iyana behind a cluster of boulders just as they reach the riverbank. Finn, hissing. Down, he draws his small knife. Across the frozen river, 3 armed figures emerge from the pines. They are not Apache. They are coarse, heavily bundled miners from Ember Ridge. Men Finn knows, men who often boast of hunting redskins in the hills. The leader, a massive man named Bridges, stops when he sees the fresh tracks. "Fresh meat tracks, boys. Looks like a runaway. Follow the river. She won't get far in this snow." Finn's heart pounds. He is caught between a racist lynch mob from his own world and the powerful Apache chief whose family he is protecting. He realizes the wolves were easier. He looks at Iyana. She is watching the 3 men with cold, unwavering fury, shielding the baby. She touches his arm. His coming. Soon. Finn knows he has mere seconds. If he is seen with her, he is a traitor to Ember Ridge. If they find her first, she and the baby are dead. He makes his choice, the same choice he made when he heard her first cry. Stay here, no matter what. He sprints away from the boulder, purposefully moving into the open, visible space on the riverbank. Bridges, spotting him, yelling, "Well, looky here, Holloway. What in tarnation are you doing up this far, stray?" He grabs a long, heavy branch, snapping it against his knee to make it look like a rifle. "The trap line is clear, Bridges. Go back to your mine. You'll freeze your balls off out here." He is acting as a decoy, buying Iyana time. The miners hesitate, confused. Suddenly, a sound like cracking stone echoes from the canyon walls. It is not a gunshot. It is a powerful, deep war cry, Apache. From the woods behind the miners, 2 figures emerge, the towering Chief Dakota, dressed in furs and leather, his face painted, and another warrior. They're armed with rifles and bows. They move like predators. The miners panic, turning to face this sudden, terrifying threat. Bridges screaming, "Engines, run!" A chaotic exchange erupts. Finn uses the diversion to turn back to Iyana. He looks at her, then at the chief, now locked in a desperate skirmish with the miners. He breathes heavily. "Go, now. Tell him, a stray helped you." Iyana doesn't move. She looks past him to the battle, then back at him. She reaches out and quickly presses her hand, stained with the baby's blood, to his chest, right over his heart, a gesture of blessing and ownership. "Your heart is good, Finn Holloway. It is not like the men of your town." She melts into the surrounding thicket just as Chief Dakota's warrior lets out a fierce cry of victory. The miners are routed and scrambling back into the forest. Dakota turns slowly, his eyes burning into the place where Iyana was, then snapping to Finn. Dakota walks across the frozen river, his imposing presence crossing the symbolic border. He looks at the tracks, the evidence of the struggle and the blood on the snow. He looks at the exhausted boy, holding a broken branch and a beaded pouch. Chief Dakota. His voice is low, gravelly, powerful. He speaks in perfect, measured English. "My wife, my son, you delivered them. Why?" Finn looks directly into the eyes of the man who holds his life in his hands. He has no good answer, no tactical explanation, only the truth he learned as an orphan. "The cold kills. I didn't want them to die." The chief studies him for a long, heavy moment. The wind whips snow around them. The two worlds do not meet here, boy, yet you have forced them to touch. Go, but remember, a debt of life is eternal. You will be called. He turns and vanishes into the pines, following his wife's tracks. Finn Holloway stands alone on the bank of the frozen Clark Fork River. He is still an orphan, still a stray, but the beaded pouch on his heart and the unspoken understanding with the chief of the day prove otherwise. He no longer belongs entirely to Ember Ridge or to the wilderness. He now belongs to the bridge. He looks down at the river, his own reflection visible for a moment in the ice. He is changed.
The mountains always keep their secrets, but Finn's journey has just begun. What happens when Chief Dakota calls in his eternal debt? Does Finn choose the safety of the reservation or the familiar dangers of the mines? To find out what happens next and to see how this young orphan builds the bridge between two warring worlds, make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow our channel.